We're here showing off the new Fossils Archetype, which is basically all around their extra deck. You can actually use your opponent's monsters as material to go ahead and bring out some of their more powerful monsters. The Fossil Dragon Yugioh is pretty much the go-to boss. It makes it so your opponent will be taking double battle damage when it inflicts damage on a monster, and it has 3,500, which is pretty insane too. And you can swap the attack and defense of a monster. So you can see over here, he just made the attack of this monster 0. It swaps the attack and defense, and it has 3,500. So he just took 7,000 with just this card alone over here. And again, you're going to be able to kind of stun your opponent by using their own monsters as materials for the fusions, which is quite cool. So it basically disrupts their plays. It doesn't really disrupt their plays, so to speak, on their turn, unless there's something in the graveyard. You'll see there is a card that you use as a stepping stone before going into the big dinosaur boss, that you can actually take an opponent's monster from their graveyard and actually use it to just bring it out for free, which is quite great. The archetype is very new. There's not that many cards, but I'm here to go ahead and show you guys how it looks like it is going to be currently played. So unfortunately that card does get negated, but we've got another Fossil Fusion. Plus, Fossil Fusion is excellent because once this monster goes away, you could just add back that fusion, and this is going to be a rock monster, so all it requires is a 7 or higher monster. Most decks will be playing something in their deck that will eventually be a 7 or higher. Obviously against rank 10 trains is maybe a bad matchup for the trains, simply because, again, almost all of their monsters, once they go for an exceed monster or something, the material, if it falls off, it will go ahead and be in the graveyard, so you'll be able to bring stuff back. Now, he's not going to be able to go into his battle phase because, of course, Evolving Switchyard makes it so you can't get into any damage. I guess you can still go to the battle phase, but your opponent takes no damage. Nonetheless, the extra Foolish Burial and Chest over here are going to be popping. It reminds me a little bit of the Dragmas here, which we'll show you guys that matchup in a moment here. But once again, the Yugioh is an excellent card. Remember, we're going to be able to do massive amounts of damage, and most of the stuff has piercing abilities as well. So don't be putting your things in defense mode against this deck because, well, not only will you be taking more damage, but again, it doesn't even really matter because you can swap the attack and defense anyways for the most part. But it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and show it off against, I'm going to go ahead and show off this duel first, and then we'll get into a duel that has a little bit more back and forth because it's kind of been a little bit one-sided, I would say. But I was actually kind of curious to see how it would deal against like a super boss monster, considering their archetype doesn't really have too much stuns, and I was wondering what do you do once there's a very powerful monster like Dragon of Red Eyes that can be boosted up to 4,000 attack, right? Because the strongest monster is 3,500 at the moment. So once again, we're making the Yugioh, and I was like, what is he doing? He's attacking right into him, and he swapped the attack and defense of his opponent's monster. And then on top of that, this card is going to do double the amount of damage over here. And then once again, we're going to see the guy bring out the Dark Magician, but we lose out on our Fossil Dragon, which is our main card over here, and we can't add back the Fossil Fusion, so we've lost out a little bit there, but Weathering Soldier is here to go ahead and re-add back another card. So we're going to go ahead and see him go ahead and make this card over here, which is kind of a stepping stone that you can utilize. But this card is quite great because it can attack a second time during each battle phase, and then if it attacks defense, you get to do piercing, and his opponent didn't top deck. Basically kind of bricked over here with all those Dark Magician cards, unfortunately, because it happens. But this one over here is going to be a little bit more back and forth. So this one is up against the Dragma invoked over here. So we're going to see Alistair go right into Mirage and go ahead and make Gardener, which is basically not really that relevant, but he's going to go ahead and have Saint over here, and of course Macabre is quite a great card. And on top of that, he's going to go ahead and be able to activate that effect of Chest, but that gets stopped. We've got a Macabre, an Ash Blossom, and an Impermanence, which is, this is a pretty decent little board over here. Not bad at all. And on top of that, this card can't be destroyed from a card from the extract. Now, that card does get negated. We see the Ash Blossom over there, but he still has an Impermanence at his disposal. But during your end phase, this card does lose some extra attack. Not that it really matters. Most of the time, it's just for that graveyard effect anyway. So Macabre is once again coming out because that's the card that they make every single time. This card's going to go ahead and get that effect, but Macabre is going to go ahead and say no to that. And unfortunately, it is Ripperoni for that because it's actually banished as well. So now he's going to go ahead and run into that card so he can proc the effect of the Crusadia over here. Just lets you just go ahead and just special summon a monster. But it's more important for the other effect where you can send a monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is, of course, trying to proc those other effects. effects that you will be needing here. Now we get Fossil Fusion, can't stop that, and the Fossil Warrior Skull King is going to be coming out. And this card, remember, it can attack twice over here. And we've got the Cardinal, which is one of the boss monsters for them. He's going to go ahead and try to get this effect over here. What he tried to do over here is, this is a quick effect. This is how you can actually kind of stun your opponent with this archetype. So its quick effect is target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard a card. If you do special summon that target to your field. I like that there's no really restrictions on it. It doesn't like go away during the end phase or anything like that. You can just take your opponent's thing. Obviously taking a Macabre would be quite good, but that goes ahead and gets stopped by impermanence. So he's going to go ahead and go for the Disciple over here, and then he's going to go ahead and summon the Maximus, which has a pretty great effect. And then he's also got the Cardinal out, so he's going to go ahead and deal some damage over here. I guess he could have pushed with this too. I guess he's just like, I want that extra defense. Maybe afraid of Lightning Storm. Fossil Fusion is going to go ahead and be activated. Here's where we go ahead and start stepping stoning, because this is quite important. Because some of the monsters in this archetype require you to have a very high level monster. Like this one requires level 4 or lower monster, and most of the fusion cards lets you use your opponent's graveyard as material. But there are matchups where it'd be a bad matchup where you don't have those targets, right? You don't have the ability to go ahead and get a stronger monster. So what you do, you use him as a stepping stone. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do anything because it can make a second attack, but it's really not that great. But what you can do is go ahead and activate Time Stream and just go ahead and start going into other cards. And then this card has this effect over here, where is it? You can banish it and target one monster on the field and pop it. So you can use these cards as stepping stones and go into the other cards. There's also the effect of some of the other ones, but nonetheless, that's pretty much the effect that you're going to try to get off of it. And remember, he's going to be taking double of the damage over here. And then he's going to top deck into Theo. He summons Theo. He's going to go ahead and reduce the stats, but it doesn't really matter too much at all because it's still stronger. And remember, once this card goes away, as long as you have Fossil Fusion, you're going to go ahead and be able to reoccur. So it's kind of a grind game oriented deck. It's supposed to be like, okay, you get rid of this monster, I'm bringing back it again and again. And I mean, that's the point. They're fossils, right? They should be coming back. So as far as the archetype goes, I'm going to go ahead and hook you guys up with the deck profile, courtesy of the ones that you guys saw via Raid Hunter over here. So shout out to him for building this variant of the deck. Keep in mind, guys, it's really early. There's a lot of cards that will probably be coming out for the archetype. At the moment, there's actually only one monster for the deck. Like, they actually only have one monster. And I'm not talking about the extra deck, I'm talking about the main deck over here. But this is a card you guys didn't get to see, but Prime Mineral, it's just a rock, it helps out, and it also happens to be high level. But anyways, it lets you go ahead and make it so if a monster is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, you can just special summon it, and then when it gets flipped face up, you get to pop 2 cards, and again, it's just there for the requirements of most of the fusions. And then we got Pingatrops over here, another decent card. Moa Carrier, again, it's just used for the ability to maybe go into stepping stones, but it is a little bit higher of a level, so it helps out again with the fusions, because sometimes your opponent just doesn't have the materials required for it, and it also is a higher level. Then we have Weathering Soldier, which is basically their only monster. So this one lets you just add a Fossil Fusion whenever it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect or destroyed by battle, and then we get to have multiple copies of Mathematician. Yeah, it's pretty much just sent from the graveyard via a card effect. Which is why we have so many other cards here. And then we have Ash Blossom, then we have copies of Keystone. This lets you just have another rock, and then on top of that, if you happen to have something Spanish, you can kind of recycle it too. And then 3 copies of Valor. We got 3 copies of Lightning Storm, and the extra Foolish Burial lets you set up for your plays later down the line. Plus on top of that, if you really need to pop a card with the Elder Entity in chest, you can go ahead and do that as well. Foolish Burial, obvious for, of course, our Weathering Soldier, which is the only card here for the archetype in the main deck. Then we got 3 copies of Fossil Fusion, excellent card. Remember, if I face a fossil monster you control is destroyed by battle by card effect, you need to add this card right back to your hand, so that's how you just re-bring out the cards over and over. Then we have Time Stream over here, which is the card lets you kind of just go into a higher monster. So you're going to target a fossil, tribute it, and then special summon from your extra deck one that is 2 higher. It is still treated as a special summon with Fossil Fusion, which is helpful over here. And then during your main phase, except for the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and add a Fossil Fusion monster from your graveyard, then target a Fossil Fusion monster graveyard and special summon it. So you have, again, some recurability with the deck. Then we have the Miracle Rupture over here. I didn't get to go over it, but it just lets you send 1 level 4 or lower rock monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then a Fossil Fusion's in your graveyard, you get to actually draw an extra card, which is quite nice. Then 3 copies of Called, so you can go ahead and stop your opponent's plays, or you can make it so you will for sure get your plays off. As far as the extract goes, we got Skull Geos, Skull Warrior King, Skull Knight, and then Skullgar over here, which we didn't actually get to see in the gameplay here, but nonetheless, it doesn't really do anything special. You can banish it to add a Fossil Fusion from your deck to your hand. More than likely, you've already activated one to get it in the first place, but I guess if you still want to go ahead and utilize those other effects of cards, sure, why not? And then we have Skull Bone over here. Well, let's let you add a Time Stream by banishing this card from your graveyard. It's actually one of the better cards to use as a stepping stone for your plays. That's why, I mean, this one does let you use it from your opponent's graveyard, but this card just comes up a lot more often because you can better stepping stone, if you get what I'm saying, because this one just goes for the Fossil Fusion, where this one goes for the Time Stream, which you need. Anyways, Unicorn, Phoenix, then we have Cerberus, the Cross Shape if you can make it, and then Link Reba, because you technically have this card as an option for just like, again, Link material. It is an option, but more than likely you're just going to go for the cards. But anyways, that is it for the Fossil Archetype. You guys can let me know your thoughts on it down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed checking them out. Again, I know it's super early, but I know people still want to see cards regardless in the Archetype, even in its earlier state. But I'm curious to know if you guys think that this will be meta. I feel like at the moment, even if they added a bunch of cards to try to support what they have already, I don't see it being stunned enough. The only card that you have is that quick effect to go ahead and get a monster reborn from your opponent's graveyard, which at the end of the day, it's not enough, even going second or first. I feel like going first. Well, what are your plays? Just hope that your opponent has something that they set in the graveyard that they really need to get back. Yeah, it's just not viable right now. But at least we do have a newer Archetype, and we'll see where it goes in the future, because maybe they'll release a newer fusion that actually negates things that your opponent does. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, make sure that bell is on so you don't miss out on some stuff. And if you guys want to send me in replays, just like my homie over here just sent in, feel free to do so at AzneyesReplays@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one. I'm out. Peace.